morning and welcome to All for One and Unmute Cheryl. So anyway, today we have a great show, and this is put together by our wonderful Gail Morton. She put the topic for today is like mastering your inner world. And today we have a really interesting question that we're going to ask you. But first, we're going to start with a little opening prayer or benediction and just set the mood and set the tone for what's going to occur right now in this space. And so let's just all take a deep breath in and lower your eyes or close your eyes, whatever feels comfortable to you. And just know with me that there is only one power, one source, one quantum energy that just permeates everything, that we are the essence of this energy and eternally connected to this wonderful field, that everything and everyone, every aspect of nature is all just one. And so I just know as today unfolds that everyone is open and receptive to new thoughts and new ideas. And as we unfold this beautiful message, that it touches you in certain ways that makes you aware of this beautiful quantum field. And I know everyone present is here to hear this message and ready to open their hearts and their minds to a new experience. And so it is. Amen. So our question today, again, is, I'm sorry, not the topic today. The question today is, when do you feel brave? And I really had to stop and think about that because I don't think of myself as necessarily brave. But then when I stepped back and I thought about it, being brave is the person that's willing to stand up and speak what they believe and express it to other people, but not in a way that is like a forceful way, but is brave enough to acknowledge who and what you are. And so being brave to me is standing in your truth at all times, remaining in principle, no matter what it is. It's not like you jump out of principle because of business. Oh, business is different than this. No, that's not the truth. The reality is that when you remain in principle all of the time, and that to me is being extremely brave, because a lot of times the world or what's going on around you does not see or hear where you're coming from or what your thoughts are or who you are. So by being brave, it's just me being your own authority and remaining in that one place, that always, no matter what's going on around you, staying in your truth and speaking your truth when asked. You know, you don't have to force it on someone, but not just saying what other people want to hear or doing what other people want you to do. Being brave is remaining true to yourself. That's what I feel. So now I'm going to pass it over to Dale Olansky.
Thank you, Cheryl. I love this question too. And I was thinking about all these different things that have happened in my life. And I finally found the common denominator for me when I feel brave. And it's whenever I go outside of my comfort zone, that's when I feel brave. Whenever I stretch myself beyond my little world and what works for me and just take that step into the uncertainty of it all. And when we were in ministerial school together, all of us, I felt like I was very brave because we were continually being pushed outside of our comfort zone. And I mean, for me, there were times where I felt so uncomfortable, and sure, I could have quit and decided not to do that. But I knew, it's so important for me as far as I feel is growth, inner growth and expansion is so important, because that's how we become bigger people and get more in tune with all these wonderful parts of ourselves and these talents that we may not know exist unless we do become brave and try these new things. And sometimes we succeed and sometimes we fail, but it doesn't matter, because allowing yourself to do something beyond what you've ever known, to me, is just so brave and so life expanding. So that's what I have to say about brevity. Now I'm going to toss it over to William.
Well, good morning. I tell you what, I think I have a little bit different perspective, but both you ladies giving me some insight about what you think is brave. But for me, when I saw that question, I'm thinking of brave as, going off and defending a country or defending someone who's put down, or maybe that's a kind of a guy thing. I don't know, but I don't think I've ever really felt myself or thought of myself as being brave. maybe because I've had the context of that's what it means to be brave. However, in listening to both your answers, yeah, I'd have to say to become a practitioner, that's pretty brave to say yes to looking at myself, and maybe that's being brave, is not being there for somebody else, but being there for yourself. You know, all four of us here definitely have a backstory. Some are bigger than others, some are quieter than others, but every single one of us has a backstory. So to overcome that story and to become a practitioner in this philosophy, to be there of service for other people, to be open, to be honest with yourself and others, I think that is definitely brave. So thank you, Gail, so much for this question. You've definitely changed some perspective for me, and thank you for being brave and answering or asking that question. So Gail, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, William, thank you so much. And I have truly enjoyed each and every one of your answers. So for me, when do I feel brave? Well, I think my answer is actually pretty simple. I feel brave when I am being my best, when I'm being any change that I want to see. So you see, for me, being my best isn't always easy, because being my best often requires me to stretch, really stretch and move outside my comfort zone, often to move through that which is unknown for me. And that can be really uncomfortable. So for me, the two phrases really go together: be your best and be brave. I'm not sure that I can have one without the other. So I just want to thank my cohorts again for playing along with this question today. And now we're going to move into some really cool questions, the answers of which will come today from our own individual understandings on the latest in quantum science. So our theme today is going to be around mastering our inner world, our emotions and our reactions. So I invite every person who is listening live today and everyone who's listening later to just jump into this discussion. Share your experience, share your thoughts. And I invite my cohorts here today to draw from your experience with the energetics of life and expand today on our foundation of Ernest Holmes and into the field of quantum science. So a natural expansion and growth of the 1926 Science of Mind philosophy has been through breakthroughs in quantum science. In all of our studies and in our continuing education, each of my cohorts today have grown in their understanding of the workings of our philosophy through breakthroughs in quantum studies. Cheryl brought some of that to us last week. Today is our opportunity to answer questions that are commonly asked of popular quantum researchers like Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Bruce Lipton, and Greg Braden, and share with you some of their discoveries as we answer these questions. And this hour is your chance to be supernatural and discover the partnership of science with our Science of Mind philosophy. It's an opportunity to be empowered, to be inspired, and whole as you learn about and apply the science behind healing from the quantum field. It's also an opportunity to be magnificent as you transform your life and become the greatest expression of yourself by participating today. So we're really excited that you're here to engage with us in 50 minutes of cutting-edge questions and answers that will take you deeper into your understanding of how to use your many gifts. Our discussions today come from questions commonly asked at retreats facilitated by Dr. Joe Dispenza and others, all researchers who are teaching the world how to empower and heal their minds through meditation and mindfulness. And their studies have proven that when well practiced, these tools can put us on the path to understanding and breaking deep-rooted habits and even heal illnesses. So this is our format for today. I'm going to pose a question and then solicit answers from my cohorts. Once each question has been answered, we'll jump into the next one. So we're going to start our program today with a very common question Dr. Joe Dispenza receives often. Here is the first question for my brilliant cohorts. So this question is about relationships and about opening our heart. Romantic relationships can be pretty difficult for many of us. One of our biggest challenges is relationships, and romantic relationships in particular. So here's our question. How can I open my heart and manifest my true soulmate and be truly happy and loving when I'm not sure what this feels like? So whichever of my cohorts would like to jump in, please do.
I'll jump in. I don't mind. I'm just sitting here thinking about that I'm one of those.
I think something happened to
I think so too.
I'll go.
William, anyone want to jump in?
I'll start, I guess. So for me, I think looking for relationships always begins with yourself and your relationship with yourself, and coming to a place of oneness and unconditional love. Because I know a lot of people, the work that we do especially, a lot of people come to us seeking to find that one person, that soulmate. And a lot of times it's because there's something missing inside of them and their relationship with themselves. And so my go-to is always, let's start with you and see how you are in relationship to yourself. Do you love yourself? Do you honor yourself? And I know what we're probably going to be talking about as we go is everything is, and this is what quantum pretty much talks about, what we are, what we're vibrating out, the frequency that we are in is what comes into our lives. So if we're vibrating at a frequency of love and openness, then naturally you're going to be attracting somebody into your life that you can have a wonderful relationship with. So for me, it starts with our relationship with us. Cheryl, since you kind of went out and in, so why don't you go ahead and follow?
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Suddenly I was gone. So I probably did something. It's my vibration. It's like my energy was off for a second there. What I was going to say was that I've been single for a long time, and by choice. And and I think about where is this relationship, or I have in the past, but it's like this. I know that I had so much work to do for myself, and I think I consciously, and I know I did, I consciously made the decision not to even think about being in a romantic relationship. But that doesn't mean that I'm not in relationships. I have some of the most fabulous friendships. I have the most fabulous people in my life, and male and female. But as far as going for looking for that energy level, and I know that in a sense that it's my mindset, just like Dale said, it's my vibrational energy that I had my focus elsewhere. And it's almost like I was repelling anything that was going to interfere with what I saw my path as being. And so, but at times I think, oh, it would be nice. But then the reason I had so much healing to do is because I had formed an idea about what a relationship was. And it's not necessarily that. If you've had a bad relationship or you've been in bad relationships, sometimes you can make that assumption that every one of them is like that. And it's not true. But when you've run across it, and then when you're thinking that way, you keep attracting that type of person. And so that type of person that said, see, I knew this was true. That's where you get into trouble, is because you've got a predetermined idea of what it's going to look like, who it's going to be, how it's going to unfold, and all this other stuff. But that's when I just, like last week I was talking about, sometimes you just have to step back and just turn it over and let it just flow. Just let everything in the universe just flow. And if that's where your focus is, that's where it's going to start unfolding for you and you start seeing it. But that's the other thing. Be sure you're seeing what is being presented to you. I had people say, oh yeah, I had this, but it was, and it's like, okay, you had this and you decided this wasn't it, even though this was the answer to your prayer, And so step back sometimes and just look at it and open yourself up to attract rather than repel. I've been repelling. I know I have, but it's worked for me up to this point, but I don't, I would really like to have a relationship at some point. So we'll see what happens, what unfolds. So who wants to go next? William, go ahead, jump in there.
I tell you what, some very dynamic answers and insight. For me, with that, it comes to what do I want? As a child, I had a very dynamic childhood, but when I got in trouble, and believe me, I got in trouble. But when things were said to me, about who and what I was, it's amazing that I had the wherewithal to say in my own head, that's not the truth of me. I'm more than that. And so when it comes to relationships, what I do, it works for me, I guess, at least at 50% of the time, because I've had one relationship that didn't work and the other relationship it's working really well. But it's this: what do I want from the relationship? How do I want to be treated? And so what I do is I treat the person, the relationship, the way that I would want to be treated, whether it's bringing a cup of coffee in the morning. I would love it if somebody brought me a cup of coffee in the morning. Well, then I'm going to bring that cup of coffee to someone. And in doing that, that's where I get my joy. Yeah, you can get joy from receiving that cup of coffee in the morning, but you know what? You get just as much out of giving that cup of coffee. And that's what it's really about, relationships, joy, gratitude. That's what it's really about. So does it really matter if you're on the receiving end or the giving end? Because the feeling inside of that self-worth is there. You have self-worth when someone loves you enough to give you something, to be of service, to help you out when they weren't asked. But it also gives you a self-worth knowing that you are there for someone who needs your assistance, who may not otherwise have asked. So that is really the answer for me, is I'm being selfish on both ends. And that selfishness is a good thing because it causes me to be of service to someone else. So if there's someone else who'd like to elaborate on that, or if not, Gail, do you have another great question for us?
So, yes and yes. So, William, first of all, I loved your answer. It reminds me of one of my very favorite books, which is called The 5 Love Languages. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but it's just amazing. And I think you could have been the author from that answer. So I'd like to just expand a little bit on this question about relationships and really expand about, how can I open my heart and manifest this soulmate when I'm not sure what this feels like? So remember that relationships are one of the 4 pillars. So I'm going to take this answer in a couple of different stages because this is really a hot topic for many people, very common question. So in my own personal evolution, what I've learned is that we should not need to work in a relationship. If a relationship doesn't flow, it's not a relationship that's worth our personal effort. Now, that may sound a little bit harsh, but let me explain that energetically. So most relationships are connected to the first 3 energy centers of the body, or the first 3 chakras. So now we're getting into the quantum science part because it's all about energy, right? And the energy centers of the body are all connected. So our first 3 energy centers house our sexual energy, the way we function in networks and in community, our need for protection, our feelings of safety, our need for that. And when in balance and our body's working well, we integrate the remaining 5 energy centers where we express our love in some way. And that releases a cascade of harmony hormones, creating more integration in and across all of these energy centers. So it's a natural evolution. So if energy is stuck in the first center or the second center, there's an imbalance in that center, which makes it really difficult to integrate the rest of our energy centers. So that's kind of a background explanation to answering this question. So why is this important to answering the question? Well, how many people in our audience today have been in a relationship that maybe for the first 6 months was amazing until it wasn't? Well, that's because we initially opened up our energy centers, including our heart center, as we explored this new relationship. But once the chemicals wore off and we went back to our unconscious programming, sometimes we wonder who this person is that we met 6 months ago. Quantum science explains this. So Dr. Joe Dispenza and many other talented scientists have shown us the path that integrates our philosophy, science of mind, with quantum science. And many of his scientific cohorts would tell us that by the time we're about 30 years old, that 95% of our actions are based upon unconscious versus conscious thought patterns. So once we fall back into these unconscious thought patterns, we're no longer sharing the same energy, the same initial emotions with others. So energetically, for me, that explains what we might characterize as recurring disappointment in long-term relationships. Just a way to think about it. So the one thing about relationships that is fundamentally important here is that relationships are truly built on the sovereignty of an individual's wholeness and self-love, exactly what my cohorts just shared. And that is an energy created from someone that has worked on opening their heart and now is able to have a relationship with someone else with similar energy. And one of the problems is that many people have been hurt in relationships. So what do? We tend to close our heart. And we protect our heart when we've been hurt. So our work to do then is on opening our heart and being in a state of gratitude. So with this background, I think my answer to this question really is this. Maybe consider writing down all the things you want as qualities in a relationship. And you work on becoming that person, all of that, versus trying to find a relationship. And why do I say that? Well, for me, when you're looking for someone, that act of looking implies lack. It implies separation. And your efforts are going to fall short every time. Another way of saying this is we don't want to look at our outer world for our inner happiness. So what we teach in the science of mind philosophy around the pillar of vibrant relationships is to be happy with yourself first, instead of looking outside of yourself for happiness, for joy. Find in your own company something you really enjoy. Be the person who feels incredibly blessed and happy with yourself and your own life. And I think this is really key because when we start feeling grateful for who we are and we're happy with our life, these are the moments where we no longer identify with lack or our past or an illness. There's a real freedom that takes place within us because we feel more whole. So if you've had challenges in nurturing, loving relationships, instead of spending all your time looking for the right relationship, Take care of your own unconscious choices, your own personal programs, your own habits. Because once you do, you're going to attract another personality that is similar in energy to who you have created as yourself. Another way of saying this is be the change you want to see. In relationships, bring your best. Bring your best. And if you know the person you're with is not bringing your best, consider making a different choice. Practice opening your heart. Work on becoming this person. Start flowing. Get happy. And walk into a relationship with someone that is equal. And what about relationships that you know are not working any longer? We all have those. My answer is finalize that relationship. Finalize relationships that you find do not work any longer. So in summary to my answer, just ask yourself this question. How are you showing up in your life? Show up as the personal qualities you want to meet. And this, by the way, holds true for all 4 pillars of your life, your health, your finances, and your creative expression. Be your best and be the change that you want to see. So is everybody good on that question? Shall we move on? Okay, excellent. Okay. So let's move on to a second question. Let's go for this one. So in the Science of Mind teachings, we often say thoughts are things. Choose wisely. So how does this wisdom translate into quantum theory? In practical terms, how do we work with the quantum field to change our physical reality? Looks like Dale.
Okay. I so love quantum. I'm glad we're talking about this today. So the way that I see quantum supporting this idea that our thoughts create our reality is that the quantum field is all possibilities. All possibilities exist there. And the belief or the thought, the strong thought is just energy like we've been talking about. So if I have this really strong energy, then I am putting out the vibration of what that energy is into the quantum field. And that possibility that exists in the quantum field is coming forward into my life expression. So it's, Ernest Holmes was so brilliant, and he was speaking to the quantum. He just didn't know it. So it's really all about working with this invisible divine substance that is everywhere present. It isn't just in one place. We're submerged in it. It's everywhere, every part of us. So what's so cool is that our thoughts and our beliefs determine what possibilities that are in the quantum field are going to come into our life. So the power is in us to bring forth whatever possibility we want to bring into our life. And what is so cool, it's so empowering for us to be able to do that. Because I know before I came into Science of Mind, I wasn't aware of my thinking, creating my life. And I was just on automatic pilot and creating stuff that, some stuff was good, some stuff was really not pleasant. And coming into Science of Mind and using what is actually quantum physics to create a better life allowed me to see that, to choose wisely what I'm thinking, what my beliefs are, so that I could activate the quantum field to bring forth the life that really resonates for me. I think, Cheryl, did you want to go next?
Yes, I just want to say, wow, are we getting deep today? This is great. Woo, I have to step back for a second and think about it. But it's, when you think about your thoughts, I just take it back to the basic level, even beyond the fact that I am in existence, that I am expressing this energy individually. I take it back to the one place that there is nothing but this energy, and it's undifferentiated until it comes into form. And so if I go back and I think about my thoughts puts something into this energy and it causes form. That is what the beauty of this beautiful quantum energy is. Continuously, it's like a divine urge to continuously create, and it's open and ready for us at any moment, anything that we put out there. And so taking it back to that one small place of knowing that no matter what I think, what I feel, what my beliefs are, I am still part of this one giant field of energy. And so whatever I'm thinking, whatever I'm doing, however I'm showing up in my life is a reflection of this one energy. And I can't take credit for just one thought or one idea, because it all comes from this one energy. So it's more a case for me of how am I going to direct my energy? How am I going to direct this so that it comes into my life, so that I experience what I desire? So knowing that it's always present, always there, always active in every moment, no matter what I'm thinking, what I'm doing. I just have to remember that when I put these thoughts out there, the thing that makes the difference is my feelings behind it. That's what generates and attracts and causes this potential and this possibility to just start into action. Every thought has the potential to becoming a reality. So I often say this to people: remember, your thoughts in our language or in our way of speaking is a treatment, is a prayer. So it doesn't have to come out of your mouth. It comes out of your mind. You're still affecting the quantum energy. And so when you stop and you step back and you look and you think about it in that sense, then it just changes everything. You know, I'll have a thought and I'll go, oh, don't think that. What are you thinking? No, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that, you know. But sometimes, you know, and especially if it's the thought that is not, you know, improving my life or improving the life of someone else. So that to me is just knowing that I'm just immersed in this endless, beautiful field of energy, and that there's no separation between me and it. It just changes everything for me. That's the way I look at it. So who's going to jump in there next? William. Okay, let's go, buddy.
All right. So the quantum field and endless possibilities. That's a hard one to wrap your head around. And here's a great analogy. Here we go. Buckle up, Buttercup. With the digital era, with CDs, DVDs, everything that we do and talk about now in the digital age is technically ones and zeros, which means there's a connection, there's not a connection. There's a connection and not a connection. And those sequences are set up in blocks of 16. And depending upon the order of a 0 or a 1 creates a form. That form is, you can't detect it, you can't see it, and it travels along a wire, or it travels, well, let's just talk about a wire, something we can physically touch. So I can touch a wire that's containing this information, but I don't feel anything. But yet it's there. It takes something else to convert that energy into something that I can comprehend. Now, if I remember correctly, that thing that changes energy from one form to another is called a transducer. Everyone knows or has seen a transducer. If you have a car, if you have headphones, that speaker in your headphones is a transducer. It's changing one type of energy, being electrical energy, into a sonic energy, waves that we do hear. Quantum physics and reality are very similar in that fact. So bear with me. The radio stations and radio frequencies. At any given time, there are a multitude of various radio frequencies that pertain to various types of programs. They're all around us. They're coming in and out through us. But only when we align with the proper equipment. Okay, how about the proper thought? When we align with the proper equipment to the proper channel, it then forms the radio program that we wish to listen to, whether it's a talk show, whether it's music, whatever type of music it is. It doesn't matter. It's your choice. So all possibilities are flowing through, in, and around us. That's quantum physics. That's quantum theory. Every possibility of life is already here. It's up to you, through your thoughts, to align with that frequency to allow it to become form. Not only that, but just like a radio program, your thoughts, you are the transducer of your life. You are changing quantum physics fields of energy into form through your thoughts. You are a transducer. You're nothing more than a speaker in a car. How about that? But what power is that? I mean, to think about, to be able to change thoughts into things. Oversimplifying it, I know, my cohorts, but just I'm trying to talk something to where people can grasp and understand this idea of every possible reality is available at an instant. And that is what is so beautiful. So that relationship that you're looking for or want to experience, be the vibration of that experience. Don't be a vibration of negativity or somebody who doesn't need anybody or want anybody or anything like that. But then in the back of your head, oh, I wish I had a relationship. Be that frequency that you are seeking, and it comes together, it meshes. So I love this idea of this talk that we're doing today with Gail. So just think of yourself as a transducer. All possibility is available to you right now. Just be that which you want to experience. And when you can do that and realize that from that state of calm and peace, and just allow it to unfold, things in reality align themselves to allow you to experience the thoughts that you are thinking. So with that, I'm sure that Gail has some nice thoughts about that, and maybe on to another question. We shall see. All right, so Gail, here we go.
Again, yes and yes, William. So I love the way, William, you brought in, thoughts are things. And from a practical, in more practical terms, how do we work with this quantum field? So, because it's easy to have quip statements, right? Thoughts are things, choose wisely, but how does this really translate in truly changing our physical reality? So, kind of in simplistic terms, I think of thoughts are things, choose wisely as the what, and the quantum field more as the where in the answer to this question. What do we do and where does it happen? So we hear a lot in quantum science about our ability to access the quantum field to change our reality. Well, what is the quantum field and how can we work with it to change our reality? Well, I think of the quantum field as a space where anything is possible. As William said, infinite possibilities. In the quantum field, your thoughts and corresponding emotions, that's important too, create your reality. Your thoughts, your emotions, all that you embody. It's the field that creates matter. Matter does not create the field. I'm going to say that again because I think it kind of sums everything up. It's the field that creates matter. Matter does not create the field. So a good definition of the quantum field is that's an invisible field of energy and information. Or you might say it's a field of intelligence, or maybe a field of consciousness. All of that is true. And all of this exists beyond space and time. That's really the key. Nothing physical or material exists there, as Dale was saying. It's beyond anything you perceive with your senses. So there's a pattern that exists for everything in the field, absolutely everything. So if you're experiencing what you might call an issue, there's a pattern that exists in the field for that issue. And when you change the pattern in the field and create more coherence, now that's a big quantum science term, you change the expression of your three-dimensional reality. And how do you go about changing the pattern then and creating this coherence or more coherence? And I think the answer is by developing a combination of belief, which we talk a lot about in Science of Mind, and where it all starts, intense desire. So doing so creates a state of coherence. So you believe in what you're creating and that you can create it while experiencing intense desire or elevated emotion for it. You wait with excitement for the many, many infinite possibilities. Now, there's a few necessary points here. So if you're lacking coherence, your intent might be sent ineffectively. So it's easy for us to grasp the notion of feeling the desire, but desire alone is not enough. At the same time, simultaneously, we've got to feel the corresponding elevated emotion along with it. And this has to do with what Cheryl talked about, vibration. Now, that's a whole other topic in itself, but an example of elevated emotion would be gratitude, joy, bliss. And so the final point is be open to many, many possibilities. If one particular outcome is chosen by virtue of your focus, it is going to, from a quantum standpoint, collapse into a particle. This is known as a quantum event. And what then happens on that one option in that moment, you no longer have options for the other outcomes just in that moment. So remember, anything that you focus on collapses into a particle, and that is what happens in that one moment. So I'm going to move on to what is probably going to be our last question, but I really want to jump into this one because not only is this commonly asked in retreats around quantum studies, but we get this question a lot as practitioners within our center. So how many goals or habits that I want to change should I meditate on at once? I want better health. I want a romantic relationship in my life. I want enhanced finances. I want to be creative in my job. Maybe I want to get rid of my back pain. So should I focus on one thing or two things I desire? Or what should I do? So I'm going to throw this out to my cohorts for an answer.
All right, I'll start us off. The answer for me, and when it comes to prayer work, you focus on one thing at a time. Because that is where, basically, that's where you need to have your focus. To have various thoughts that dilutes the focus of your thoughts. And that's what we're talking about, the focus of our thoughts. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to focus on that one thing, such as relationships, and keep focusing on it until you get that relationship or you get that finances. It means all of life is but an instant. So for now, today, right now, or not today, this moment, you want to experience a great relationship, focus on that relationship. Concentrate on that, what it is you want to experience. And like Gail was saying, it collapses into a particle. Now, the next moment, you could think about or pray about something else. But in any one instant, think about one thing. So I will turn this over. Okay, Dale. Looks like Dale is going to go next.
Hi, thank you, William. I have a different approach. Isn't this great? For me, it is about one thing, but the one thing isn't the one thing you're trying to demonstrate in your life. And I'm just going to tell you my personal experience of evolution. When I first came into our teaching, I was all about first prosperity, then a job, then this, then that. And through my development, I realized it's not about all these little things. It's about my overall consciousness. And to me, that's what I teach and that's what I work on. It's not the thing I'm looking for in my life. It's me and my relationship with myself and with God, and just moving my consciousness to a place of greater oneness and greater faith and a greater trust in this universe and what it's all about, and using the quantum and getting into that state of just being that experience of spirit that we all are. To me, once that's really rooted for me, everything else takes care of itself. And I don't need to keep treating for one thing and this thing and this thing. Everything just naturally flows because I'm calibrating my consciousness to a higher place of knowing of oneness and love and all that stuff we teach. Who wants to come next? Cheryl, did you want to go? Okay. Oops.
So everybody has answered so many great questions today. And also just a lot of times I'm thinking along the same line, and then somebody will answer, and then it's all of a sudden, boom, there it goes a different way. Sometimes when I just see that when I have somebody come to me and they've got I call it a grocery list of things that are wrong in their life, just like Dale said, and going back to consciousness. But I find that sometimes it's more about clarity around what you really desire. And so a lot of times a prayer that I will do with somebody that's all over the stratosphere will be, let's just find some clarity here. So, and then sometimes when you're praying for clarity, not sometimes, always when you're praying for clarity, it is just to open up your mind to stop focusing on the smaller things and looking at the larger picture. And I know I'm a big picture person, because I've just found that when I get into these little details and the little minutia of things, that's when I start losing my clarity. I have to just step back and say, okay, wait a minute. But Dale is absolutely right, as is William, as is Gail. All of it comes down to what's going on inside of you and how are you showing up in the world. And then with clarity, at times you can just see the bigger picture. And I'll just share very briefly something somebody shared with me. A woman came to me and she was so distraught. Her daughter had breast cancer and she just wanted to be there and be everything for her daughter in that moment. And it was so important to her to do that. But what I asked her was, well, how are you showing up when you're there? Well, I just can't help it. All I do, I just cry and I'm just so upset all the time. And I just can't seem to, focus. And I said, well, and now my daughter doesn't want to see me. And I said, stop and think, step back. Why don't you be the light in the room instead of the one that is pulling her down? Why don't you be the person that absolutely believes what's going to happen is going to turn out just as it should, is going to be perfect? And just stop bringing your uncertainty and your unclarity, I don't even know if that's a word, but your uncertainty around this situation and bringing the negative aspects in, and start bringing in the light and allow her to go through this process and with her own clarity and her own knowing of how it's going to turn out, rather than you're always bringing in this negative. So sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to step back, and even though you're hurting, leave that at home. If you're helping somebody, be the person that's the light in the room. That's how I sometimes just see it, as that is, to me, is what clarity is. That you above and beyond the smallness of what's going on with an illness or whatever, and you're just being that presence in that moment, that they can just step back and they know they're in a safe space. They know that they're immersed in your love, and that's what they need the most at that moment. So that's how I see it. But thank you so much for letting me share today. It's been great. Gail, wow. Knocked it out of the park today, girl.
Well, I want to thank each and every one of my cohorts for playing along with all these questions today. And thank you, everyone in our audience, for walking with us through the quantum field. I'm going to turn it over to Dale now for our close.
Thank you, Gail. I too have so much gratitude. I love quantum physics, and you introduced the topic really beautifully for our audience so that they can get a taste of how quantum physics and science of mind are very compatible. So thank you. So at this time, I would like to invite anybody who would like to financially support our center to do so at this time. Even though I always say, even though our Sunday services aren't taking place, you can see how busy we are all week long, and we still have our financial obligations. And we so appreciate all that you're able to give to us. It allows us to continue to grow and to continue to support all of you in the best way we can at this time. So big thank you. As you can see, there are many ways that you can contribute. We've got online options. You can call the office, and you can do old school and send a check to the office if you like. So we thank you, that we're grateful and very appreciative. So a few announcements for this week. We've got the rest of the week, our 10 a.m. shows. We've got Dr. Laura tomorrow. She's going to be teaching Catherine Ponder's book, The Dynamic Laws of Healing. And I'm so grateful she's bringing back this old classic. Catherine Ponder, who happens to live in our Coachella Valley, she is an amazing dynamo of spiritual principle and how to use these principles to create the life that you want, and just like we talked about today. So I'm sure it'll be a great time with Dr. Laura. Friday, we have a special show. I should call it the Doctor's Show, because we're going to have Dr. James, Dr. Joe, and Dr. Laura. They're going to be meeting with all of us and just talking about the state of our center, what's going on, because as you know, we've got lots of changes that are all wonderful. This is how the universe expands. We're showing you right here in our center. So they're going to have a wonderful dialogue and conversation with all of you with questions you can answer. So join us on Friday at 10. And Saturday, we've got our meditation. I'm not sure who's going to be up, but we do have a meditation at Saturday at 10 o'clock, although you can also see it in playback on our YouTube channel. And Sunday, oh my gosh, Sunday, you just get ready. We're going to be broadcasting live from our center, and our guest speaker, Dr. James Mellon, is going to be leading the service. And you're going to see a lot of people from our center and some from GTC, Global Truth Center. And we're just going to have a great time. We're all going to be a part of it. And I'm excited. So you want to tune in live, though, just to be a part of the energy, as we say. So that's at 10 a.m. And it's an Easter service, of course, because this is Easter on Sunday. If you didn't know that, it's Easter coming. So a couple of other regular things we've got. I know that William and Cheryl have their social aids tomorrow. That's Thursday at 5. We've got our weekly Power of 8 at 8 a.m. and you can just sign up. You can just drop in and be a part of it, but definitely pre-register for that. Our men's group, it's a monthly, or is it do you meet once a month or twice a month, William?
We are changing it to the first and third of the month.
Right.
We need a little bit more get together than once a month.
It's men's time to come together and bond. So they're meeting this coming Tuesday at 7 p.m. And there's a link on our website on the banner page, so you can drop in there. And let's see. And I've got my Sacred Circle for anybody who's interested every Thursday at 9 a.m. There isn't a link. You just have to contact me for the link. But it's just getting together, people sharing where they are in life, and then I pray us up at the end. So lots of good stuff for you guys to be spiritually nourished. Whatever suits you, come join us. And I think that's all I need to talk about today. So I'm going to go ahead and pray everybody out. And I thank you on behalf of my beloved cohorts in spiritual crime. I'm grateful that we had this time together, and we will be back next Wednesday. Oh, I do have one self-promotion. I'm going to be doing the Tuesday show next Tuesday. I believe it's April 6th. And I'm going to be giving a little bit of a workshop about forgiving the unforgivable. And I'm going to be going through what forgiveness is and giving you a whole bunch of tools to use to start forgiving those people and circumstances you haven't yet gotten to yet. So you can free yourself. All right. I invite you to just close your eyes or soften your gaze and just take a breath of air in, which I need to do after talking so much. Oh, I'm so grateful just to know that something wonderful took place here today for each person who was a part of this wonderful, wonderful coming together of like-minded people. And for those who are seeing this in a recorded capacity, I'm just knowing that there is the wisdom that everybody needed to hear today to create a new understanding of life, our power to be creating that which suits our heart, that is a coherence for us to be living in a greater way, to go beyond the limits of yesterday and go into the present moment where so much possibility exists for us, to be able to live into life, to enjoy it, to thrive, to be happy and healthy and well, to have loving relationships, and to know that we are the master of our individual universe. And so I'm grateful to know that we have a beautiful day ahead of us, that love reigns supreme, and all is well. All is well. And so with gratitude for everybody who was a part of this discussion, I'm grateful to bless everybody, knowing that that power that is spirit is live and well within all of us, because we are it. And so knowing all is unfolding with grace and ease in all of our lives, I just let go, knowing all is well, as we say together, and so it is.